So, Toli, I mean, to me, it seems like a case where you are reminded that you could be making a remark in passing in a meeting such as the NEC meeting, but that remark that you make could turn out to be a huge deal years later. Fikile Mbalula, his remarks about finding out from the Gupta family that he was going to be appointed a fully fledged minister when he was still deputy minister of police at the time, now the focus of the Zondo Commission of Inquiry.
Indeed, Tulas, and that has been the focus of this commission today, both on Trevor Manuel's part, but also as Siphiwe Nyanda, who came to the stand later after him. And so for Trevor Manuel, he says that whether it was Atul Gupta or RJ Gupta, because remember, there is this dispute by the Gupta brothers that actually none of them had actually disclosed to Fikile Mbalula. Instead, it was RJ who claims that he had congratulated Mbalula on this upcoming appointment as a result of him having read newspapers. But for Trevor Manuel, he says that that's actually not true, because the manner in which Fikile Mbalula brought up the issue at that NEC meeting of August 2011, for him it was very clear that the Guptas had done something very wrong, and the way that Fikile Mbalula rose or brought up the issue at the meeting in such an emotional manner to a point where he actually even cried, it meant to him, or it signified to him, that Mr. Mbalula understood at the end of everything else that had happened that the Guptas had gone beyond their scope, because they were now interfering in government business. But let's take a listen back to Trevor Manuel as he recounts how Fikile Mbalula got to know that he would become Minister of Sports and Recreation.
What Mr. Mbalula said was that when he was called to Saxonwold, he went there, and there he was told that he was going to be appointed as Minister of Sport and Recreation. And he was at first very excited about making it into cabinet. I mean, there's a sense of a big promotion. Very excited at being told this. But in retrospect, and this was the emotional part of it should never have been the Guptas or anybody else who told him that. It was the prerogative of the president, and that prerogative had been violated by the way in which the information had been shared with him. Now, I think, Chairperson, that if and when Mr. Mbalula does appear in this commission as a witness, he's likely to confirm what I'm saying, that it was the sense of the violation of the constitutional prescripts in the exercise of authority by the president that had been violated by somebody who knew before he was entitled to, and seemed to suggest that he had sufficient power to confer the status of cabinet minister on an individual.
So this is all, Toli, not trivial in the bigger scheme of things, in the sense that it talks to one of the terms of reference of the commission that has to do with whether or not there was interference by people outside of government in the appointment of cabinet ministers, and whether the then president played a role at all in any of that. Let's fast forward to another cabinet reshuffle executed in 2015, the removal of Nhlanhla Nene, and another former minister now talking about how it suddenly made sense. Everything that he had been seeing but not really connecting together suddenly made sense. What did Siphiwe Nyanda say about particularly his confrontation with his group of the then president Jacob Zuma?
Indeed, Tulas, the former Minister of Communications, Siphiwe Nyanda, says that indeed it is true that at that meeting, although he cannot recall which meeting of the ANC it was exactly, but he says that indeed he was in that same room when Fikile Mbalula made this emotional statement in front of the NEC, essentially confronting the president in a way, even though they themselves, he admits, they never took up the issue afterwards. And he says that it was actually a missed opportunity, and to use his words, he says that it was remiss of them as an 80-member NEC where no one raised this issue after someone had actually brought forward now something that he said had been whispers in the corridors about just how much influence the Guptas had amassed for themselves. But importantly, he says that this also affected him because in that cabinet reshuffle of October 2010, he as well was dismissed as Minister of Communications, and it wanted to confront the president for a very long time to find out about why he was removed. And he finally got that chance. We don't know when it was, but he says that he spoke to the president, the then President Jacob Zuma, and the president instead, quote unquote, mumbled something about the SABC, which Nyanda says he knew that there was no truth to it. Instead, there had been this rumor that he had been running some parallel intelligence structure, which he said that actually there was no truth about such an issue. So for Sphiwe Nyanda, indeed, the Guptas were influential, and to a point where it actually violated the country's constitutional prescripts.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating testimony there. Thank you so much, Xoli Mngambi, out there at the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. And you'll know, of course, that there's been some kind of communication from Fikile Mbalula's side. We've caught a glimpse of his communication with the commission, the Zondo Commission, about wanting a bit more detail about the affidavit that is the basis of the testimony of Trevor Manuel, because he is expected, is Fikile Mbalula, to respond to that. He would like to get a glimpse of that particular affidavit before he can actually respond to what is being said by Trevor Manuel.